Oh, good morning. Hmm. This is going to be a little bit of a tough one because I'm going to report on 60 Minutes and the sovereignty movement. For those of you in the rest of the world, let me read what I wrote in my little blurb. One of my friends sent me the recent clip from 60 Minutes, a long-standing CBS investigative news program in the US, about this past Sunday's piece concerning the sovereignty movement. Yes, they put their spin on it. Here's my take on the news behind the news. First off, they showed a couple of people, a father and a son, that were in the sovereignty movement, heavily armed, that ended up taking out two policemen in West Memphis. I was going to say Tennessee, but I think West Memphis is actually in Arkansas. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's true. Anyway, one of the policemen that they took out was the chief of police's son. And you don't know how sad it makes me to see things like that. I think that is truthful reporting. It really happened. And yes, there are people in the sovereignty movement and the militia movement in the United States that are armed to the teeth. And I hope it never comes out or comes down to a shootout between the establishment police and people and the militia movement people. I hope it never comes to that. Most people in the sovereignty movement are like I am, peaceful people. I have not met anyone that's part of the militia. I would venture to say that out of the 1,111 subscribers to my YouTube channel as of yesterday afternoon, and I don't even know what the number of my friends is right now on Facebook. It's somewhere over between 1,000 and 1,500. I think closer to 1,500, but I could be wrong. I haven't looked for a while. But anyway, I would imagine that among those are people that may be part of the militia. I will also imagine there are those that are part of the government, perhaps part of the FBI, perhaps part of the CIA. I know some of the lawyers involved in the case that's been going on since 2005 for me. I know some of those people watch my videos. So I know there's people that's paying attention, and they're probably looking at my website, and they're probably looking at things, emails that go back and forth. Oh well, that's the nature of the beast. And there's a lot of people in the government that are afraid because people are waking up all over. There is a sovereignty movement that has nothing to do with any organized militia or any organized anything. It's just people waking up that are tired of the BS done to us by the corporations, by the governments that are corporations, by the religions, by the false justice system that we have in this world, run on the Uniform Commercial Code, by the military's paradigm of violence. What they didn't show on 60 Minutes is how police sometimes abuse their power and tase, or sometimes even worse, beat up people that are peaceful in demonstrations and otherwise. There have been things on the internet about that, but I bet the mainstream news doesn't cover them. They only cover and put the spin on what they see as a threat to their long-standing lies. And let me tell you, yes, the governments have been lying to us for a long time. None more perfected than the American government. But it's certainly not alone. Virtually all the major governments in the Western world, and probably the Eastern world too, spin things to their point of view because they're trying to save their paradigm, the paradigm of control over people. They're trying to maintain the status quo. It saddens me, as I said, to see anybody get shot, anybody get hurt. I'd love to see a peaceful transition from the old paradigm to the new paradigm. I'd love nothing better in my heart than to see people just simply wake up and stop lying to each other and start telling the truth. I'd love to see 60 Minutes invite me onto their segment, or Oprah, or somebody that would give mainstream coverage, so that we could tell the other side of the story. I'd love to see it be a level playing field where they actually let people explain. One of the things they said in the 60-minute thing was people are waging a paper terrorism. And if you look at some of their documents, they have all these laws and stuff in them. Yes, they do, because things that the government is doing and have been doing for a long time are unlawful. What they're doing to me is unlawful. When they foreclose on properties, for example, and this was brought out about the foreclosure part of it, when they foreclose on properties, when these banks and the courts agree to foreclose on someone's property and they don't have the original paperwork, it's fraud. No matter what laws and rules they've put in to allow them to use copies, it's still fraud when they use a copy. A copy is not an original. And the banks and their lawyers are committing fraud on the court, and the court is committing fraud on the people. This is truth. This is reality. And people need to understand that and wake up to it. Just because they paint sovereigns and people in the sovereign movement as violent and wanting revenge and stuff like that, we're not all coming from that place. I'm not coming from that place. Here's a book, The Space of Love. It's one of the book. It's book three. It's book 3, I think, in the Anastasia series, the Ringing Cedars of Russia series. I've mentioned it before. It shows on the cover here Anastasia and her little boy being fed by an eagle and a bear in the background. Harmony with nature. In book 5, which I've loaned out, someone else is reading the book, which is called Who Are We? There's a story about a little girl with tremendous spiritual powers. And in that story, her dad in Russia works for the Russian military-industrial complex, and he's one of the high-up officials. And this little girl, because of her power of concentration, is able to make rockets disappear, disintegrate the rockets by sheer thought, by consciousness. And I wish that our ET friends, and yes, that's coming out. It'll come out soon. Watch. It'll come out soon. Our ET friends have technologies to disarm weapons. They've done it. They've done it repeatedly, and it has been reported even in mainstream news. I know on Larry King and other, perhaps other news agencies, even Fox News occasionally reports such things of weapons being shut down. The capability exists to shut down all the weapons on Earth. What would happen to the powers that be, that are soon to become the powers that were, because they base all of their power on lies and force? What would happen to them if if people collectively joined into meditative states where we disarmed, with the help of our ET brothers and sisters, we disarmed all the weapons on the planet so that none of them worked against each other. And the only thing that we had was to tell the truth and to face each other face to face, eyeball to eyeball, and tell it like it really is. No spin, just this is my experience, this is my observation to the best of my ability. This is how I'm seeing things. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I think about it. It's insanity to continue the war against each other. It's insanity. When are we going to wake up to that fact? We are individually sovereigns. There are those of us that know we are sovereign. There are some people that don't yet know they are sovereign. They are still wards of the state. They don't even know they're in slavery to the state. And the state is an artificial construct that usurps the power of the individual because the individual does not know who they are. Who are we? We are powerful beyond belief. We have latent gifts and abilities that are untapped, that if we can only tap into that part of our divine self, we can transform and change the world in this ninth wave this year. It doesn't have to take a prolonged period of time to do this. It doesn't have to take forever. It can happen very quickly. It requires more and more people to awaken, more and more people to share their truth with others, and to step out and stop being afraid to hide who you are because of fear that people don't understand. Obviously, from the 60-minute report, there are still a lot of people in this country and around the world that don't understand what's really happening here. What is really happening here is people are waking up to the flame of freedom that is burning in the human soul. But some of these people don't believe in the human soul. They don't believe in consciousness. They don't believe in the powers of extrasensory perception. They don't believe in these things. And yet the very government, the very military uses remote viewing and other extrasensory perception techniques to actually spy on enemies, to see where they are. They knew or could have told you where bin Laden was from the beginning if they used their military gifts of being able to remote view what's going on. There are people that can see everywhere in the world. Anastasia, she could see what was going on. When the officials came after her to bring her back to work with her outside of Moscow, they came with weapons. When they fired the weapons, I think I told this story once before, when they fired the weapons at her, just like in the Matrix movie, they hit an invisible shield and the bullets just dropped to the ground. Only one of them grazed the top of her ear. I think that's what it was, or temple. It grazed her head, but it didn't kill her. We have powers and abilities, folks, to be used peacefully. And peaceful means used in the service of love to one another and to our fellow man, even those that are asleep and even those that don't know who they are. That's a tremendous power that's untapped. And it sounds ridiculous and it sounds insane to people that don't know, that haven't experienced the touch of the Holy Spirit, of the Great Spirit in their hearts and in their lives. It sounds insane, but it's not insane. This is the new paradigm. It's the wave of the future. It's the ninth wave. It's where we're going. It's how we're co-creating a new reality, how we're bringing peace to the planet. The 60-minute piece incites fear and misunderstanding. I hope that what I'm doing is doing the exact opposite. I want to incite love and a better and a clearer understanding of the bigger picture. It's time for us to exercise personal sovereignty. And that doesn't mean that we're unwilling to cooperate. The opposite is true. We want a system and a life based on cooperation and mutual respect. Yes, on love and compassion, each for the other. That's what we're trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do. That's my vision for the world. That's what I see. That's not 60 minutes, but it's like a 60-minute segment today about a 20-minute piece, 15 to 20-minute piece. That's about what one segment is on 60 minutes. This should be your news. I wish everyone would watch and listen to what I'm sharing with you. Because, folks, we are in the awakening, and this is the shift of the ages. This ninth wave that Carl Kalleman and Ian Lungold told about may not make sense to everybody yet, and it may seem like we're losing our minds and going into our intuition, because we are. And our intuition is the wisdom of the heart, which is far wiser than the mind can ever be. I hope something that I've shared with you this morning speaks to your heart, wherever you are, even if you're part of the three-letter agencies in the United States that are checking me out. I'll never advocate violence. Never. If that's what you're waiting for, it won't happen. Because I am not a violent person, and I don't support violence on any side of the equation. We need to beat our swords into plowshares and lay down our weapons and come peacefully to the round table and talk to each other, heart to heart, face to face, from a space of truth and love. I leave you with these thoughts this morning, or whatever time of day you're listening and watching. May God bless you, and may your heart and mind open to the enlightenment that's happening all over the planet. Namaste.